we're back again, and this time we're going to be looking at Flash and how we integrate these files in Flash. So there's a couple of things, excuse me, that I'd like to bring up to you right away. In Flash this year, you're going to be working with AS3, ActionScript AS3, and rather than ActionScript .2. We'll talk about that in a second. And you're going to migrate from using scenes, which are awesome, and you can still definitely use scenes in other projects that you have. They're still completely valid, but I want you to get used to the idea of structuring projects with movie clips. So you will be specifically using movie clips in this project. Okay, this is the project we're going to be looking at today. I have files in Canvas that you can look at to sort of get a better look at this stuff. We are now just kind of previewing this view here like you can do in Flash. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's first of all start off with the idea of we want to make a new file. All right, so we go File, New. Now, I'm using Flash CS6. I'm sorry, no I'm not. I'm using Flash Creative Cloud. The most recent version. You are using Flash CS6. Very, very few differences between the two. One is just more cloud-based, but the functionality is really, really similar. So I don't think there'll be any real big issues going between the two in terms of this demo. So I want to call your attention. Look here. We don't see ActionScript 2 anymore. We see ActionScript 3. And we see this cool thing called Canvas. Ooh, what's that? We'll have to talk about that in a minute. So suffice to say, for your project, you're going to be using ActionScript 3. Adobe is pretty much phasing out ActionScript 2.0, and there's good reason for that. I won't go into a lot of detail about the difference between the two, but I'll tell you the two biggest things. ActionScript 3 is really suited much better for really complex projects, and in terms of breaking the project apart into the designer's role and the role of the programmer, AS3 really does that. It makes a separate AS file if you desire that's kind of separate and outside of the timeline. It does a lot of way more object-oriented class-based programming, which programmers are going to be more used to. So it's really geared towards those kinds of projects where you have collaboration between a programmer, say an artist designer, and maybe a user interface person as example. So you're going to be using ActionScript 3. Do not use anything else because you're going to have problems doing this project if you're using anything else based on the way we're structuring. I do want to point out HTML5 as an option for other things you may do in the future. So the advantage of HTML5, so HTML is Hypertext Markup Language, and what that is, that's the markup language that will run a web page. HTML in conjunction with CSS, cascading style sheets, is really what drives website design these days. And so what's really cool is that you can take an animation that you create in Flash, you can export that now as an HTML5 document, or you can publish it as an HTML5 document, and it will play right from your browser no matter what platform you're on, as long as that platform supports HTML5. So that's a huge jump. You also see Air for Android, Air for iOS. These are obviously the mobile platforms. But suffice to say, if you're using HTML5 for an animation, a game, something like that, chances are that document will play across platforms. Now, over here you see width, so that's important. You want to be able to make this the size that you want to design for. And so what you want to do is you're going to make a 960 by 600 document, because that's what we are sized to in Illustrator. The 960 size is really good. In fact, you could even make that 960 by 800. Let's do that, 960 by 800. The 960 is really great because it works across multiple platforms in a 9-column grid, excuse me, in a 9-column grid. And so 960 is a very, very nice number to use. And everything we've developed in Photoshop for this project and in Illustrator all are using this 960 width. So please use that width. All right, so that would make a new document, for example, and then you can get started. Obviously, you would use your view functions to view, go in and out, things like that, like you're used to doing. So this is great, but I really want to get back to the sample project that I set up for you. So what you have here in this document, let me sort of show you a few things. Let's take a look at the library. Let's come back in there. Let's take a look at the library. So, oops, so sorry. I'm going to turn the library back on here. So this is the library. Let's pull this guy down a little bit. And you can see in this library the various files that we have. One of the things that I'll point out to you is everything that we have is playing in this main timeline here called Scene 1. And look at Scene 1's timeline for just a second. What you have are a whole bunch of keyframes in the starting position of the timeline, but you don't have the actual animation going across here at this point. And the reason for that is that when we call interactive things to happen, we're not jumping between scenes anymore. Okay, what we're doing is we're actually pulling in movie clips, and we'll talk about that in a second. So movie clips, graphic display kinds of images, those two things are really important. They're kind of the backbone of game design and things like that when it comes to Flash. So it's really good to know how to use it. When you design in a scene, for example, for Flash, you create, the whole background and like it's a scene unto itself. Whereas what we're doing here is we're just taking elements and we're overlaying this Cherokee Story background. So let's take a look at that Cherokee Story background. Let's look at that bitmap. So as you can see up here where my cursor is, this is the image that was brought in. This is 960 pixels wide. This was designed in Photoshop, and we'll go into Photoshop as well and take a look at this. Pretty highly composited. There's a lot of layers in here that we'll talk about after a while, and some effects and things applied to the layers. But that's that file. So this whole background is as you can see, I'm moving it around now, right? And so as you can see, that's just one solid file. I'll undo the move to get that guy back to where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to size up this timeline. I don't really need to see very much in there anymore. The other things that you see laid on here are elements that have come directly out of Illustrator. So when I started this project, I started it with everything laid out in Illustrator on a 960 width screen showing exactly what I wanted, where I wanted it. And Illustrator is so fast at laying out. It's a really, really great place to get your layout set. So all of these are individual items, all brought in from Illustrator. These are obviously charts and graphs developed in Illustrator. This little box of text here, this really is just a text box that I made in Flash. Same down here, these little interactive buttons that navigate you to the Library of Congress information, those were generated in Flash. But for the most part, everything else is an external file imported. Okay, how do you do that? Really simple. You guys should know how to do this. Import to library. We just go out and we find the thing that we want to bring in. I won't go into this too much because you should know how to do this. But you go and you find the thing that you want to bring in. You import that. Pretty straightforward. So import. Differences, you can import to Stage or you can import to Library. I tend to import everything into the library so that I have it there. But of course, you can import to Stage 2 if you're not going to do too much with that file. If you're planning to use that file as a symbol, then you probably, I would suggest just putting it right in the library and then converting it. But whatever you do there is really kind of fine. There's other things that we see here. We see these little ping files. These are little buttons you'll see in a second. But I really want to show you the various movie clips that we have. This is probably the most important part of what I'm showing you. So this is movie clip 1. Movie clip 1, again, was laid out in Illustrator. And, you know, this is a chart that was generated in Illustrator and just, you know, imported straight in. Pretty simple. This movie clip, again, this was the map developed in Illustrator, brought in as an Illustrator file. So if we look at this, that's the map up there. And then, of course, in Flash, I just colorized the map a little bit. You know, going to Properties, obviously this is a symbol, and under the Properties area, we can colorize that. I'm assuming that these are all things that you probably know how to do. All right, so in the movie clip 2 file here, let's go ahead and pull that up. This is a movie clip that actually does have some animation in the timeline. I'll show you that in just a second here. Now notice that we're sort of one step down. Here's scene 1, right? This is the very top. And then when I open up the movie clip, I'm seeing the movie clip now. So if I want to get back to that scene 1, I simply jump back up. It's very similar to jumping around in scenes, except you're just doing it up here, right? And of course, a movie clip is not a scene. It's really important to understand that when I bring this in as a movie clip through ActionScript 3, all it's doing is laying that file with transparency over this background, okay? So as you can see, I wouldn't have to make a new background for every scene, and that really reduces file size, makes playing it back over the internet faster, all of that kind of thing. All right, so the only other thing, let me call up movie clip 2 one more time. The only other thing that's worthwhile noting here is in movie clip 2, there's an animation that happens. I'm playing this now, so you can sort of see this red line is growing. So this was just like a frame-by-frame animation. This could be done with a mask too, but I just thought this was pretty fast to do frame by frame. But certainly it could be done with a mask. I think there's about 60 or so frames in here, maybe 50 actually. And some of them I'm going, you know, every other. Some of them, as we get to the end, I want to speed them up, so I'm doing a keyframe for every step there. All right, so now comes the big question. What the heck? How do you control these things? How do you get these movies into the container?